my family, my mother, my father, my brothers, they all smoked. And it wasn't like, a terrible thing. They weren't out robbing people or doing everything, but everybody smoked. I might not have realized it at that age. Maybe I thought it was acceptable a little more than somebody else was. So when Dare came in, I remember when Dare came in, and it came in, and I remember looking at that like, I don't even know if that's real. You know what I mean? So I was already more aware of that aspect than other kids were. And I remember standing outside of a mall as a kid smoking a cigarette, and like people walking by like, what are you doing? And I'm like, right. Mind your business. Like, I'm fine smoking a cigarette. Like, what's wrong with you? And now as 38-year-old man, if I seen a kid like that, it would be like, bro, please, like, just put it out. You know what I mean? Like, don't give yourself a chance. But at that age, I had no idea. I didn't have a clue. To give you an example, like 6th grade year I got arrested like 3 times. The first arrest was marijuana in school. He gave me this bag on the bus on the way to school. Somebody seen it, obviously. It's a bus full of kids. So they end up calling. The principal comes in 9th period and asked for me to come into the hallway. So she asked, did I have anything? I'm like, no. She's asked, can she search my locker? I'm like, yeah, you can search my locker, no problem. Searches my locker, doesn't find anything, and it's 9th period, that last period of the day. So she says, all right, I'm going to take you to the office. I'm like, okay. She stops in the classroom and tells this. So before that, she asked me, did you bring a backpack to school? I said, no, I just had my binder that was in my locker. So before she takes me to the office, she stops at the classroom and she tells the teacher he won't be coming back to class. I'm taking him to the office. She's like, okay, do you want his backpack? So she looks at me and she's like, yeah, I want it. She grabs the backpack right there in the hallway, goes through it. And as a kid who's in 6th grade, I think this is the greatest hiding spot ever until I realized it's not. So you know how like a jewelry case that you would put like earrings or a ring in? Mm-hmm. And you would lift that little part up and there's like a little empty area?
Yeah, a little compartment.
Yeah, that's where the weed was. So, right. So obviously she found it within like a minute. I got arrested. That was my first arrest. I was in 6th grade, so I was probably 11 years old. I got suspended for 10 days for that. It was a little slap on the wrist. You know what I mean? It was my first thing ever, so they didn't do much. In maybe a couple months after that, I got caught with other people. It wasn't just mom, but they ended up finding a 2-liter bottle with alcohol mixed with cranberry juice in the bathroom that they knew was some kids told on me that I had brought it. So I got suspended 5 days for that one. Also that same year, I had got arrested again. Well, I got arrested for both of these too. Also that year, I got arrested for breaking and entering, robbing a house, and underage consumption of alcohol, because when we robbed that house, we broke in through the back window. We're in the house. Somebody seen us. It was in a development. While we were in that house, someone called the cops. So while we were still in the house, I happened to look out the front window and seen them coming in. So we ran out the back door that we came, and we were surrounded, locked up, arrested. And this was all my 6th grade year. So I'm like 11 or 12 years old.
What are your parents thinking? Are you getting talks, or are you getting the shape up? What are you doing?
I'm getting talks, yes, on both sides. And my parents both went to work. They were good people. My dad was more disciplined. My mom was more an enabler, but would have the talk too. So I can't even explain what I was thinking at that time. The things that I did at that age of just, like, even in my mom's development, me and a couple kids named ourselves the Mischiefs. You know what I mean? And like, right. On what is it, Mischief Night, you would go around and you'd vandalize stuff. And the things that I did as a kid that I think about now, like whether you go and pop somebody's tires or something, right? do you know, like, I feel so bad for the things that I've done. Like, to think of, if someone came and popped my tire, do you know what I have to go through to AAA? Luckily, I have AAA, but what if you don't? And you have to call a tow truck and you don't get paid until Friday. And as a kid, you just don't factor into what you're doing. So it's like looking back at the things that I've done at such a young age. Oh, 6th grade year. I thought it was a good idea to take my dad's truck out. My stepmother was on vacation, and I've driven, another truck or two before while they was at work. And, so I have a little driving skills at 11, I waited till my dad went to sleep. We had a plan. I was going to pick up my boy. This was before cell phones or anything. Like I said, this was 6th grade year. So I was born in 86. I was 11 or 12. So this was about 97, 98. No cell phones, cordless phones though. So my boy left his cordless phone outside of his house. I came and I picked him up. He left the phone outside of his house so we could call these 2 girls who we were going to pick up as well. 6th grade girls, you know what I mean? We were all sneaking out, gonna go hang out. Why? I don't know.
Probably hoping to get a little something.
Yeah. At a young age, a little feel, whatever, we'll grab a butt, something. So when we get back to his house to grab the phone, we notice that his dad's light is on. So now we're nervous to pick up the phone because he's like, I don't know if he's on the phone with his girlfriend. And, back in the day, if you pick up the phone, you could hear it. So then he might go in his room and check. So we're sitting there waiting. As we're waiting outside of his house, I remember saying a prayer to myself that I hope no matter what, I make it home safe. That's all I said. I said, just let me make it home safe. I probably should have specified a little more of how I wanted to make it home safe, because we go back to my dad's truck that I took and we're smoking, sitting on a road with no other cars. I see a car turn onto the street and I had the car started. So I went to turn it off, but I ended up basically flashing the headlights in 6th grade. So I'm 11 or 12 years old trying to drive this truck that I barely know how to drive. I see the car pulling up and they're slowing down next to me. And I'm like, why are they slowing down next to me? And I am leaning back and I see the cop lights on the top. So now I'm leaning back because I don't want them to see me. I'm a kid. And they say something like, what's up? And I'm like, hey. And they're like, everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And he's like, come to the window. I put my face to the window. And as soon as he sees me, he steps out of the car and he's like, he snatches the car open, rips me out of the car, rips my boy out of the car. It smells like. So he's like, what the hell are you guys doing? So there was 2 state troopers. It wasn't even town cops because the town that we lived in were so small at this time. It was part of Hillsborough, New Jersey, but it's like a Millstone, which is like a little town that's not patrolled ever. So for state troopers to come, either somebody called or I just said that prayer and they was going to make sure I made it home safe. I'm so nervous that the cop is asking me questions and I'm like, yo, I don't know. Yo, he's asking me, where's the weed? I smell the weed. Where did you get the weed? What are you doing driving? Is this your first time taking your father's car? So I keep saying, yo, because I'm nervous. I'm stuttering. He's like, call me yo one more time. And I'm like, yo, and he smacks the shit out of me. I'm in 6th grade. He smacks me. And I'm just taken back. I'm a kid. So I don't know what to do. Now I'm nervous. He's going through my pockets. He's finding stuff. He ends up searching everything. He's like, where do you live? I tell him where I live. And it's not a mile or 2, but it's a couple turns, a road here, a road there. So he's wondering how I drove this far as, a 6th grader. My boy lives, 100 yards away, literally like a block and a half. So they put us in the car, and I remember telling them, if you just take the keys and just leave me here, please, like, don't take me home. The last thing I want to do is face my father. I don't want that. He goes to my boy's house. He knocks on the door. They leave me in the back of the car. So my boy's dad ends up coming, you know, and I can't hear what they're saying, but the cop is telling them, like, obviously I just found them over there in this truck smoking, and I'm bringing them home. So my boy goes inside. They start driving. Now it's the 2 state troopers and me, and they're driving, and they're like, you really drove all this way? And I'm like, yeah. Oh, like, okay. And this is your first time? And I'm like, yeah. And it was my first time going that far, but it wasn't my first time taking the truck out. So they get back to my house, and they're knocking on the door, and my dad's not answering.
Diet Smoke wants to know if you've ever been too high. Well, they have. Whether you want to replace alcohol, sleeping pills, or find a reliable, relaxing experience, Diet Smoke has got you covered. They make premium infused edibles, and they deliver them right to your door in as little as 48 hours. Imagine sleeping better, waking up refreshed, and enjoying your nights without the anxiety of a dreaded hangover. This is exactly why Diet Smoke was created. With Diet Smoke, your happiness is guaranteed. If you don't love it, they'll replace it. Don't want a replacement? Get your money back. Your happiness is their #1 goal. They offer nationwide 2-day delivery to ensure you get your products quickly, no matter where you are. Go to dietsmoke.com and use promo code COX for 20% off your entire order. That's dietsmoke.com, promo code COX.
So they're like, are you sure he's here? I'm like, yeah, he's here. They're like, you sure you didn't do anything to him? I'm like, listen, I'm positive I didn't do anything to my father. He finally comes to the door, and it's the 2 state troopers standing in front of me. So he doesn't see me at first, and he's like, officer, how can I help you? You know what I mean? He's just waking up out of his sleep. And he's like, yeah. And then he sees me, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, shit. And he ends up, like, grabbing me inside, like, you know, bringing me behind him and, like, get upstairs. And I hear him talking to the officers. He ends up stepping outside, closing the door. But long story short, my dad has to basically get on a bike and ride the bike to go pick up his truck in the middle of the friggin' night because I decided to take his car out for a little joyride. That was like, yeah, that was a rough one. Like I said, my dad could be stern and strict. So that was just to give you an example. I was a bad kid.
What?
I had a good heart. Like I always, but I just made stupid decisions.
So what'd you do? Get grounded? Did he slap you around?
Oh, yeah. So my ground, yeah, to say the least. Yeah. But I always brought it upon myself. Anything that I got, who's taking their dad's car out in 6th grade and getting arrested with and alcohol, like, and breaking into houses? I was a bad kid. So I got what I deserved. The consequences was I was grounded. I'd be grounded for a month at a time. I would almost prepared for jail. The TV taken out of my room. You know, you're going to school and you're coming home. That's it. Nobody's coming over. So it was like, you know, punished. About 3 weeks in, they let me go.
I mean, did you end up graduating high school? I mean, what happened?
No, actually. So
progressively get worse?
Yeah, that was middle school. That was 6th grade. 7th grade, 8th grade, I probably got locked up once or twice for. There was, I think, 7th grade year, I had a 4-wheeler. I had a buddy over. I had 2 buddies over, actually. We had 2 quads. We were riding around. I was selling at the time. I started selling drugs at a young age. I was exposed to it. Started with, but also ecstasy, sometimes acid, depending on what was going on. But always. So my quad was acting up. I had a bag that was in the garage, but the garage was open, and it had 2020s of, and this was early 2000s. I want to say probably 2000, 2001. So it was still very frowned upon. somebody must have called the cops that we were riding the quads on the streets. So my quad was acting up. I'm going around it's like a cul-de-sac with a horseshoe. So I'm going around the horseshoe. As I'm going around the horseshoe, my boy is behind me. We see a cop coming in from the one way. When we see him, I tell my boy, like, the cops just come and go. So we manage to lose him and get into the woods, and that was that. I end up leaving the quads in the woods and walking up behind. I see them at my house. So this was really before cell phones. We were still kids. This was when I think I first bought like a Nokia where you got to buy the $50 minute card. You know what I mean? And this is how I'm selling weed. But my boy ended up going into the house once he seen the cops coming up the driveway. He left the bong and the bag of weed there. So once they end up leaving and I come home, I see the bong is gone, the weed is gone. My boy was gone by that time too, because I came back hours later. My parents end up coming home later that night, my father and my stepmother. And I'm waiting to see if they say something to me. At this time, I'm working at the grocery store, A&P. So I had went to work. They pick me up. I come home. They don't say anything to me. So I'm like, okay, maybe they don't know. That was Saturday. Sunday goes by, no problem. Monday, I go to school. First period, they call me down to the office. When I get to the office, the school officer is there along with another officer. He has an envelope with 8 tickets in it. The 8 tickets are for me fleeing on one was no registration, no insurance, reckless driving, careless driving, private property, public roads, no helmet. And I think there was one more that they ended up charging me with. And then they also told me that they wanted me and my, a parent to meet them at the police station. So I remember going to the police station and my dad talking to me, telling me basically the police tactics, that they might try to ask you something to get you to say this or do this. So say very little. I ended up concocting this unbelievable story that somebody was walking through the neighborhood that I befriended and they were there when I took off on the quad, and when you guys came, they must have left their weed behind. Was it plausible?
That happens all the time.
Was it plausible? I don't know, but I didn't get charged with that. I just got the tickets for the quad. So that was like 7th grade year. To go into high school, I probably got suspended a couple more times for fighting. Same thing in high school. I ended up getting expelled from high school for which they said was gay bashing. It wasn't gay bash. I didn't gay bash anybody. Just let that clear. I don't have a problem if you're gay, but the situation was this. There was a kid who a friend of mine had a problem with. They were beefing back and forth all day. The kid that my friend was beefing with was allegedly gay, right? Whether this was early 2001. So it wasn't like a community behind him. It was more quiet kept. If he was, he was. I don't know. That's his business as far as I'm concerned. But they were beefing, going back and forth, calling each other derogatory things. I don't deal with racism. I don't see a black person as, they're black. I feel like you have good white people and bad white people. You have good Spanish people, bad Spanish. You have good and bad in every race. That's how I see things. My nephews are half black and half white. So growing up, I never looked at that. My fiance is black. So obviously at the time, that wasn't the case. But I remember walking into I was about to say mess hall, not the mess hall, the cafeteria. I walked into the cafeteria and the gay kid, threw a thing of pudding at my boy and called him the N-word. And my boy, who was like twice the size of him and could demolish him, is just stuck looking at him almost surprised that he did it. And I just walked up to the kid and smacked him. And when I smacked him, he tried to run across the lunch table, and I pulled his feet out from under him, and I punched him. And the kid's brother came and ended up punching him, and a teacher came and ended up getting hit, and the kid's friend ended up coming and getting hit as well. So it ended up like a big melee.
Right.
During it, I started it off and slid to my lunch table and tried to eat lunch like I had nothing to do with it. Maybe 10 minutes later, an officer comes, gets me, and brings me to the office and arrests me. I end up getting a charge for assault. The kid who got the pudding thrown on him, my boy, ended up getting charged with assault as well as like a biased crime because of the things that he was saying toward the kid. And there was 4 of us who ended up getting charged, as well as the kid who threw the pudding got repercussions as well for some, like a hate crime almost, for calling him, the N-word and doing it.
Right.
He had repercussions as well, but not like we had. They blew it up out of proportion. The 4 of us ended up getting expelled from school. I ended up going to an alternative school after that. And I ended up getting locked up and not graduating high school. But while I was locked up, I did get my GED.
Okay. And then you went on to college and you became a CPA. And
so that's where we are today. But no, actually.
Nice having you on the show.
So no, that was just the start. Just the start. So
what happened after high school?
So I ended up going into a group home where I did 6 months and I got my GED. Once I came home from there, I ended up moving and going to night classes for electrical. That's what I did Votech for. While I was doing that, I was working for a home improvement company. While I was doing that, I was also selling drugs, getting high, taking e-pills, drinking, partying on the weekends. I was in my 19, early 20s. So it was the time that I was partying. I was also on probation when I came home. So I'm giving dirty urines, catching little charges in the car, open container.
And what were you on probation for? Not from high school?
Yes. Originally that and a CDS charge. Yes, that's what I was on probation for. So I never got off probation since I was in 6th grade. That whole time from 6th grade until early 20s, I was on probation.
Always been on probation?
Yes. They ended up giving me, when I was 20, they ended up giving me 60 days in the county as, this is your 60-day sentence and you're negatively discharged from juvenile probation because you're now 20 years old, still on it. Because you haven't...
What is a CD? What'd you say the charge was?
Possession of CDS with intent to distribute.
What's CDS?
CDS is a controlled dangerous substance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Along with those charges, I was still on probation. So I had a violation of probation. And I ended up getting like a group home. So I did 6 months in there. That's when I came home. I was working, doing home improvements. I was doing the home improvements for a while, but when I came home, I was still on probation from that. While I was doing that, I'm violating probation because I had in the car, I had an open container in the car. So they sent me to another, like the youth house for a couple months to another group home type thing, which is New Jersey Residential Justice Commission. They have like these programs, a few of them throughout the state that they send you to. And that's what I was in. So this one I was in for 8 months. I did 2 months in the youth house, 8 months in the program. And then I came home 10 months later. So once I came home, came back to the same thing. I was now 20 years old, started selling drugs again. I just wasn't getting high. That's going to work out very well. So that worked for a little bit until the one thing I was always against my whole life was opiates. That was like the one thing that I never touched. It was like,
is there a specific reason?
Just at a young age, seeing a couple people go through some things that it was like, I just didn't want anything to do with it. And I guess like the needle aspect of it, that no other drugs kind of had that. So I don't know, there was something in my young brain. I remember as like a kid where I was smoking or doing pills. That was one thing that I just didn't want anything to do with. And I remember it was like 21 and I had my wisdom teeth pulled and they gave me Percocets. And I remember taking the Percocets and like liking the way they feel. And when I came home from the second program, I was selling drugs, but I was hanging out with some people who were in that life. So I got exposed to that and started, taking the pills like everybody's story. Injury, they start taking them. Then heroin's cheaper,
I would say when the prescription wears off.
Yeah, exactly. This.
I'm sorry. So the prescription expires, then you start buying them. Then
it's cheaper on the street. And this was like 2007. So it was before the fentanyl thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would always sell drugs. I'd also do whatever I could to get money. I'd work, steal, I'd sell drugs, anything. And I remember I got locked up for a distribution. Well, a conspiracy to distribute. I was selling drugs and I was home for actually 11 days. This time, like I was selling drugs the whole time, but this time I came home off the violation. I was home for 11 days and someone who was already home was selling drugs. And they told me what they were getting their stuff for. So I told them, stay right here. I'll get you at a cheaper price. When I come and give it to him, he's being watched. And they raid me and him like his distributor.
Right.
But really, I'm just trying to make $50. That's all it was.
Right.
Like, it wasn't. But now I have conspiracy to distribute, distribution, possession with intent. So they were trying to give me the Brimage law in Jersey. I don't know if that is in other places, but it goes by a point system. So basically, instead of, you waited out, do you want to go to trial? Did they give you an offer? They gave me 3 offers in once, which was, it was like a 36-month stip. If I didn't take that, it was a 38. If I didn't take that, it went to 42. So it was like a condition where it was 2 weeks in between each plea that I had to take it. I didn't take any of them. I ended up being out on bail for about 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, going to court.
Why?
Back and forth to court because I wasn't taking it. For me, my thing was I really wasn't selling drugs. I got this guy something. I was trying to play the role of let me go to a program and not do any prison time. I'm an addict. That was the role I was trying to play. So I was fighting it the whole time. And I went to a program, ended up getting kicked out of the program. So it was like, a process. I ended up while I was in the program, I got kicked out. Or I ended up running. While I was on the run, they issued a warrant for, not going to court and stuff. I ended up getting locked up for a robbery, a first-degree armed robbery. And that was like, I had little crimes before, and this was the first big one. So now when I got locked up, I have the violation. I have everything piled up.
What was the robbery? What happened with the robbery?
Over drugs. So
yeah, I understand that, but I'm saying
so it was basically set somebody up to come with a pound of weed.
How?
I called them. I told them to come. This was somebody who had got over on me before. It was all drug related, but I saw them something before, and they ended up shorting me. So I played it off like I didn't know, and then waiting a while, and then calling up. Yeah, you got this. So they did. I told them to meet me in a parking lot that was around where my mother was living at the time. Took her car. And usually if I went to do something like to rob something, I would change the plate or take a little tape, electrical tape, and try to change a 1 into a 7,
Right.
So this time I remember walking out the door and looking at the electrical tape, and I was like, no, they're probably already there. Let me go meet them real quick. And I didn't do it. I ended up meeting them. Get out the car, I pull the gun out, lay him down, take the stuff, pull off. when I pull off, there was a car coming, and I kind of like had to pull in front of them. And as I pull out, I remember looking in the rear view. And when I looked in the rear view, I seen somebody run across the street. And I'm like, that from the other direction, though, not the parking lot that I just ran on, from the other side. And I'm like, fuck, what was that? Like, who was that? So I'm trying to like black it out. I just floor it back to my house. I go in and I put the bag that the was in and the gun outside of the building in the bushes. And I go inside. And my mother's there, and I play it off like, you know, I didn't just rob somebody. We're about to go to the beach.
Well, these guys know where you live, though, right?
Who? No.
Nobody knows?
No, these people don't. No. I literally just got out from jail, and my mom just moved out here, and I was staying out there and just had them meet me somewhere. So it's all like within the same area where I grew up in, but no, they don't know where I live. They don't know.
Yeah, I thought they knew you from prior. Sorry.
Yeah, they do know me from prior, but I wasn't living in the same area, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
my mother moved from, it's actually a whole different county now. So
all right.
So I get back to the house. I'm trying to get my stuff together because we're about to leave. My mom ends up coming in and she's like, there's police outside.
Look, bro.
So I'm like, tell them I'm not here. And she's like, I think they know. And my mom's nervous. She's scared. She's not in, like, she smokes a little, but she's not like, this is past what she's used to, you know?
Yeah.
So she's ended up, like, she's out there with them. And they're trying to get me to come out of the house. And I'm not trying to come out because it's like, bro, I don't want to go to fucking jail. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to smoke a cigarette. I'm looking for I don't know where I put my weed. I want to smoke a fucking blunt real quick. So that's kind of how I felt. And I'm going back and forth. They're trying to come into the house. They still think I have the firearm with me, which I don't. It's outside in the bushes. They end up coming in. I end up, my mother's out there. Please come out. So I end up coming out. They lock me up. Now it's like I gotta face everything that I've been getting over with. So
what these guys do? They got your tag number.
Yep.
Called the cops.
Yep.
Cops came. What did they tell the cops?
That I robbed him. So his girl was in the car too, and his girl just played it like I robbed, and I just ran down on him. She was there trying to pick up some paperwork or something, and tried to play like the innocent victim role. That was it. Because they didn't call the cops. They didn't call the cops. The witness across the street who was doing yard work saw what happened and came running across the street as soon as I pulled off.
Okay.
Like, oh my gosh, what happened? So yeah.
All right.
That's how that happened. So I get locked up. When I get locked up, there's the next day 3 different township detectives come to question me about different things. I don't know anything. I don't know shit. There was another robbery that they alleged that I did that they're questioning me about, that they locked somebody else up for, they ended up having a release because they realized he didn't do it. So I'm telling them, I don't know anything. I don't know shit. Let me go lay down. You know what I mean? All I've been doing is out there selling drugs, getting high and running. Let me go back to my cell. So they're talking shit like, oh, you got to tell us what's going on. I'm like, man, I don't got to tell you shit. I end up getting up and walking out. So I end up first, they're coming 20 years, 15 years. Finally, I get it down to an 8 with an 85, but I also have a 3 flat for the violation of probation and other charges that they give me. Because I was on drug court and probation and everything. So I end up getting that 8 with an 85. It worked out where I went down first on the violation before I got sentenced to the robbery. So they gave me gap time, but in New Jersey you have 85%. So if you have gap, which I had 300 and something days to the 8 with an 85, but it doesn't make a difference. Basically, it's like I did dead time, only on one charge instead of both, if that makes sense. If you were from New Jersey and knew their laws, you would understand it a little more.
Yeah, they didn't credit you for what you've been locked up.
Exactly. I had to basically do it over. So I went downstate, and the old...
It's like you really just got another fucking year added on to your sentence.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Because I was trying to fight the robbery. So I'm downstate now. I go down Bordentown, which is like New Jersey's gladiator school. You know how every state has a gladiator school.
Right.
Have you heard that before?
Yeah, typically it's like for youthful offenders.
Yeah,
but
where everybody fights. It's like the worst one. So
how old are you at this point, though?
24.
Okay.
Yeah. 24 about. So
all right. When I think of gladiator schools, I always think of those for like youth, like young kids that are like 19 or 17 or 15.
So
I don't think of...
There's nobody really under 18. So it's usually 18 to 27, 25, 27 around there for Jersey anyway. So I go down there. I'm down there for about 6 months. And the same thing I was doing in the county, I was doing downstate, getting weed in. So I was getting it in through physics. I had somebody coming up for it. And I'm getting a couple dollars. Someone ends up dropping a slip on me. Now, they end up bringing the dogs. They search like 10 bunks over here, and then they search mine on this side. They end up giving me a urine. I fail. They send me to Escalating. I do 90 days Escalating. Then they send me to Bayside. Bayside, if you're from New Jersey, it's like the worst prison to go to in New Jersey as far as the COs go. Before, this was 2009, 2010. Well, 2010, yeah. And this was before they put the cameras in. And Bayside was known for, like, they'll kill you. The COs will kill you down there. It was bad. You were at a line, they will keep you in line. There's actually a line around the whole prison where you walk, you do not step over this line. If you step over this line, you're getting stomped out. Like, you're talking in the med line, you're getting pulled out of line, stomped out, and they might never see you again. And I've seen it
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't even talk in the med line. Just
don't talk in the med line. Don't go over that line. I mean, I already know I'm going to be okay. I can't stop.
The first time that I was there, they pulled us in the yard and lined us up. There was a CO, white dude, cocky, with a cut-off T-shirt. No uniform. He had the pants on with a cut-off T-shirt, pulled us in the yard, and basically was using the N-word and how he likes to knock them out or anybody who's going to think they're tough. Like, that was the speech we got when we got there. So I did not want to be there at all, to say the least. So I'm trying to, and I was on my paperwork coming from ASAG. It had either Northern or Base. Now, Northern was like a cop prison with, cops from the hood. It was laid back. Like, you had to worry about the inmates. I'd rather worry about the inmates than the COs. You know what I mean?
Right.
So here you had to worry about the cops. So I'm there for like a week and I get legal mail because I'm still fighting my case. And when they give it to me, and it's not even open. And they're like, all right, have a good day. And I'm like, they didn't even open the legal mail. So I'm like,
right. Well, it's legal mail. They're not supposed to.
They're supposed to open it in front of you.
In front of you, right.
Yeah.
Look through it with there, right.
So I know you've done enough podcasts now where you know about K2 and where you can't even get mail anymore and all that. So this was 2010, 11. In my head, I'm like, I'm going to try to get some bud. You know what I mean? That was my thing. That was the week. So I end up having someone put something together. It comes in. Because I wanted to, just do something to get out of that prison. I didn't want to be there. I know I still had time. And I didn't want to do it there. So I end up having somebody put something together for 6 months, like twice a week. I'm getting it through the mail every week. They call me down there. I get it. And I come back and I smoke. But this time I'm not telling anybody. I'm not selling nobody anything. I'm just smoking. I got time to do. I'm trying to do my time. I remember my neighbor asking me, he's like, every night after count, I always smell it. So he's like, I'm trying to buy something. I'm like, yeah, me too. If you find something, let me know. Because I learned my lesson. I'm not telling anybody what I'm doing this time. So this goes by for like a couple months. Finally, one day the guy comes into my cell and he's like, bro, look, you could still smoke in prison at this time. This was 2011, right before they stopped it in New Jersey. He puts a couple packs of cigarettes, a couple books of stamps down, and he's like, please, let me buy something. Because he knew it was me. You know what I mean? Every day he's smelling it at this time after count. So I ended up selling him something. And a week later, I'm waiting for something. It was right around my birthday, March 4th, 2011. 2011. And I'm waiting for legal mail, and they call me for it late at like 1 o'clock when it's usually after dinner at 5:30. So I'm like, fuck. I go down there, and as soon as I go around the corner, there's a officer and a sergeant, and they're like, what's your name? I'm like, Pinel. They're like, get on the ground. So I'm like, fuck. I get on the ground, they're like, oh yeah, you got weed coming in through the mail? They're walking me across the compound, and they're telling the other officers, they're like, yeah, this guy getting straight from Amazon.com. Well, it's just a false address, but they don't know that at the time. And the kid didn't tell on me. The stuff that I got that time just stunk. It stunk so bad that it was in center, and they ended up smelling it and realizing that it was coming from my package. So I go to AdSeg. I get a 365, 30 days lockup, 365 AdSeg for that. I have enough.
What does that mean?
30 days in lockup.
Okay.
And then 365 days administrative segregation.
Okay, I thought that was the same thing. I mean,
no,
in the feds, it's called the SHU, segregate.
Oh, in Jersey, they changed it now, but at this time it was different between lockup. You had nothing, no property, no nothing. Administrative segregation, you at least had your property, but you had to do your lockup time, pre-detention hearing time first. So I got 30 days of that, 365 days AdSeg.
So you're basically in the hole for a year.
Yes.
Over a
year and a month.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Well, it's a long time until I talk a little bit longer.
Okay.
So right after that, I have another one in the mail already. So when I get to AdSeg, one comes and it comes through, they don't get it.
Right.
The next one comes and they get it. So now I get another 30 days lockup, another 365 days AdSeg. So now we're at 2 years and 2 months. No, pardon me. The first one was 270 AdSeg. 30 days lockup, 270 AdSeg. The second one was 365 AdSeg, 30 days lockup. I'm in lockup AdSeg for 6 months. They say I have too much time in Bordentown AdSeg. They ship me to Northern AdSeg, Northern State. I'm in Northern Ad State. A bunkie that I had ends up being cool with the cop. The cops bringing him tobacco and phones. So now I end up, my bunkie gets a phone, I get a phone. We have it, we're cool, we're in there smoking, we're in there calling, my bunkie, but he's selling tobacco. And he's also like yelling out the door, doing extra stuff, being loud. And the only reason I'm staying in the room with him is because it was August, September. His AdSeg time was up in November. My AdSeg time was up in February. So I'm thinking, if I stay in the room with him, he's going to leave. The cop put me in the room with him just to give him the phones because the cop knew I was all right. I was laid back. I didn't make no noise. Didn't cause no problems. So in my head, when he leaves, I'll have the plug. You know what I mean? The cop knows I'm good. He'll mess with me. But I also know this dude is loud. And maybe a couple months go by. It's Friday the 13th. I wake up. One of the robberies that I caught was Friday the 13th. And I tell my bunkie, I'm like, man, it's Friday the 13th, blah, blah. He's like, man, that shit don't mean nothing. I go back to sleep.
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where GhostBed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, GhostBed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Even better, our listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use the code COX at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/Cox with the code COX at the checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide.
I remember waking up to police at the door with the camera. Sergeants, officers. They're like, they're here. In Northern Seg, we have like a little curtain that you could close over the window. So like when you use the bathroom and stuff. Mm-hmm. My bunkie jumps down, closes the curtain. He throws his phone in the toilet. Now, mind you, we've talked about this. The toilets are strong. They'll flush a phone. I break my phone in half, and he throws it in the toilet and flushes it. So he flushed his phone and my phone. I turn around. We had cigarettes, lighters. I go to grab the cigarettes and the lighters. Now, we had the door jammed shut. So when they call Pop 218, and central control goes to hit 218. 218 is not going to open because we have a brush, like the hair brush, and a pair of nail clippers shoved in between like the door and the door jamb. So it doesn't pop unless you're like shaking it. But they don't know that. They just think it's going to pop. So at least that gives us a little bit of time. So we flushed the phone. We've talked about this. We're not opening the door until everything is gone. I turn around and grab the lighter and the cigarettes. He undoes the door and lays down. So they come in and they blitz me. They end up taking us. Maintenance comes with the snake. They end up getting the bottom half of my phone. That's it. But the bottom half of my phone, they hook up everything. Like you could get everything off of that. There was no SIM card, but it was a Verizon flip phone.
Okay.
So they lock me up. They ask me what's up with the phone. I tell them I don't know shit. I don't know about any phone because in my head, I don't think they found a phone. I didn't see them come out with any phone. I don't know that they found any phone. I think they were flush. So they're like, you don't know nothing. We're going to give you a street charge. I'm like, fine. They send me to a different ad seg for that. I'm there for 6 months. I go to another ad seg. I'm there for I go to Trenton ad seg. I'm there for a year. I don't hear nothing else about it. Nothing. They told me they was going to give me a street charge. They never did. I end up doing, and for that, I got another 365 ad seg. So I did 3 years total there. With the lockup time, I did 3 years total. I get out. I'm in population. I'm good. I'm running a little store. I'm getting a couple dollars. And while I'm there, it's not that it's good, but I'm back in Bayside, where I was originally sent to, which I didn't want to go back to. But when I got back there, it was good, could be outside all day. You had the front yard, the backyard, compared to other jails where you didn't have as much record, as much freedom. You still had the phones in the yard. And even in the outside yard, they had the phones. Until the kid got stabbed in the backyard while I was there over the phone, and then they took the phones out of the yard. While I was there the second time, they were starting to put up cameras because of the stuff that was going on there. But they also started taking a lot of stuff away. Like, where before you could go outside and halfway through rec time, you had the option to come back in. Like, they ended that. They ended up, once the kid got stabbed in the backyard and they took the phones out of the yard, another kid got stabbed in another yard. They ended up taking the backyard completely. So it's like every year they're taking something from each prison for something that people are doing, and it just continuously like gets worse and worse as I'm there and I see it. So I'm there. I become like a runner, running a store, getting a couple dollars, still, you know, not learning my lesson, basically. 31 months go by since I got caught with the phone. And it's a Sunday. And the officer ends up calling me. He's like, "Hey, Pinel, come up." I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "You got to pack an overnight bag." I'm like, "For what?" He's like, "You have court in the morning." I'm like, "Court?" I said, "I have about 6 years in at this point." I said, "I have no court, you know?" Like, he's like, I said, "Call him back and find out just to make sure." So he does. And they're like, "No, it's you." So I end up going up front after packing my stuff. I was running the store at the time. I end up leaving it to my bunkie, like, because I don't know what to take. I don't know if property's going to rob me. I don't know where I'm going. I don't even know if it's me for a court trip. I don't know if I'm going to be back tomorrow. So I tell my bunkie, it's my boy, I tell him keep my stuff. They end up sending me to Rawway. The next day I go to court.
Do you have any idea what it's for?
No. I'm thinking it's Essex County, which is Newark, New Jersey. I got caught with 5 bags of that I had a ticket for that I never went to court for. So in my head, I'm like, could it be this? But the cop also didn't say Essex. He's like, it's somewhere up north, maybe Essex, maybe Sussex. So I'm not really sure. I know I never had nothing in Sussex, but I'm not
Where was the prison?
Huh? Where prison was north, in Essex, New Jersey. But
no, I'm saying the one where the prison
yes,
that you
correct.
They said with the phone
was Essex, but I'm not thinking 31 months later that they're charging me with this fucking phone.
Right.
So I end up going to Rawway State Prison. I'm there. The next morning I go to court in Newark, New Jersey. The public defender comes to the bullpen and he's like, "Do you know what you're here for?" I said, "No, that's what I'm waiting to find out." He's like, "You were in Northern and got caught with a phone?" I said, "Yeah, about 3 years ago." He's like, "Yeah, for that." So I ended up getting a 3 flat for that. They said since I didn't tell them where the phone came from, that whole time was an ongoing investigation because they was trying to figure out who brought the phone in. So I ended up getting an extra 3 years. And what they did was, instead of charging me right then, where it wouldn't have affected my time, they waited until I was under 2 years short to charge me. So now, instead of me getting out when I was supposed to, my date got pushed back. So the date that I've been looking at for the last 6-7 years now got pushed back. But at least that wasn't a violent crime, so I was able to work it down. So I ended up doing like an extra 6-7 months. I come home, and I didn't learn shit. I was doing the same thing the whole time I was down. I literally came home doing that I was locked up to. I rebuilt my relationship with my father because I didn't talk to him for a while, obviously, because I was just in my own zone. I didn't care. And he was always there. He was stern, you know what I mean? So our relationship was strained, but he like was always there with, you know, kid if I needed him. So with that being said, I come home, he gives me a chance. I'm living there. I'll fuck up within 2 months. Violate parole, I'm back in jail.
How?
Dirty urine.
Okay.
Dirty urine, and it was like I wasn't at the address that I was supposed to be at. So that's all it took. They give me a 10-month tech. I do the 10-month tech. They turn around and give me an 18-month hit. After the 18-month hit, they turn around.
What's the 18 months for?
Likelihood to reoffend.
Huh? Yeah. You said you got 10 months for the dirty urine.
Yep.
And 18 months for
likelihood to reoffend.
What does that mean?
It means that due to my past, I'm likely to violate parole if they give it to me again. Because I have a violent crime, I have mandatory 5 years parole after my crime. That's how Jersey works. Do that, it's a first-degree crime. It's mandatory 5 years.
I mean, you're never getting off probation.
So
you're never. I mean, this is.
So there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay.
So I do another 3 years before they let me out. After that, I go to the last parole hearing. Now, mind you, I only have 5 years. I already been locked up for 3 of it, so they didn't have too much more time. They sent me to a 6-month MAP program, which is a mutual agreement program, which is like a behavior modification type thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I go there. Most people could get out within like 90 days, 4 months, 120 days. I had to do a mandatory 180 days, and I was like one of the only people on parole. Most of the people were like probation, drug court, different things. Or off the street, volunteers. I was like one of the only people who came from prison. There was maybe like 1 or 2 other people. So I was there for 6 months. Now, mind you, when I came back after violating that 2 months and having to go through the process again, that was when I like started to take a look at myself. You would think, damn, that's what it took finally, right? And I know you, so that's when I was like fine, like looking at the old heads in prison, and I was like, don't want to be one of them old heads, just life on an installment plan. Like, I know I got good characteristics. I know there's things that I could do. I know I got a good work ethic. So I'm starting to like have these thoughts. And it was just like hurting my dad and my mom again, who always, been there through all of this. So that's when I was like just starting to take a look, because I don't know, I just grew up with like an anger and a resentment that like I still trying to fix to today. But
I mean, a shitty day out here is better than the best fucking day in prison. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, you have to stay in someone's spare fucking room and work 60 hours a week. It's still way better out here.
So, yes, exactly, 1,000%. So, through that 3 years, it was like when I started to work on myself. Now, mind you, to just give you an example, how mental health is now more aware today than it is back then. I always used to have this feeling, sometimes when I was a kid, sometimes when I was locked up in a cell by myself, sometimes before a fight, that I always thought like something was wrong with me. But it went away. So it was nothing to worry about until I was reading a book and realized that feeling was anxiety. I didn't realize I had anxiety until I was 30-something years old. I didn't know what it was. So that's how like self-aware I was. Maybe I feel like today with social media and things being more prevalent, people are more self-aware. There's more educational things, more access to different education, or people who've been through certain things that you've been through, where it doesn't take you to hit 30 to realize that you have anxiety. And that was like an eye-opener for me, because I have an older brother who suffers he's paranoid schizophrenic. But if you would have asked me, my whole life, was I anxious? Was I anything? I'm cool, I'm calm, no problems. But the whole time when I have these feelings that I'm keeping inside, I'm just bottling it up and can hide it okay.
Well, aren't you also self-medicating with,
and everything else? Yes.
Right.
1,000%. Yep. So exactly it. So when I come home, I did another 3 years and I still had another 2 on parole. I come home, this time I don't go to Jersey. I go through that program. And when I come home, I get paroled to my mother's in PA, in Poconos, like Mount Pocono, PA, which is more rural, the perfect thing for me. Now, while I was in that program, I might not have left all my ways behind, because I did get a phone in. While I had that phone, I used it for positive and was on Indeed going through all sorts of job applications and everything. So I had interviews set up as soon as I got home. The next day after I got home, I had an interview. That was a Friday. The Monday after that, I had an interview. The Tuesday after that, I had an interview. In the midst of that, I reached out to another job that's 10 minutes from where I'm at right now. At a lumber yard, they hired me. I was helping my mom out. Within 90 days of being at that job, I got a promotion. I got a raise. I show up early every day. I stay late pretty much every day except today because I had this podcast to get to. But I've just been grinding, man. I came home March of 2022. I had relapse for a month period, maybe 90 days after I got home. I haven't touched an opiate since September 26, 2022. A little while after I got home, actually on my birthday of 23, I found out my mom got diagnosed with cancer. So that's the part that's going to be hard for me to talk about. So she beat the lung cancer. It came back, spread. She ended up passing. Me and my brother were there for her till the end. Like, we took care of her here as long as we could. She went to the hospice house for the last 3-4 days. I spent the night there every day, didn't leave till she took her last breath. So that, for me, I sat here and gave her the same pills I used to abuse. I'm talking about fentanyl patches, oxys, all that stuff that we had to go through while she was dealing with the cancer. And I didn't have an urge to do nothing. She was my best friend. She was an enabler too, but at the same time, like, she's the one, like, who still gives me the spirit and everything I can to do this today. I'm in the process of trying to, like, sell this place, buy a home, and do things that, for me, a couple years ago, I didn't think was possible.
Right. You have to know, it's the best possible situation for you and your brother to be there for her. You couldn't have asked for anything. It would have been 10 times worse if you'd been locked up. Like, I mean, that's the best in a horrible, out of a horrible situation. That's the best possible result, is for you to be there with her at the very end.
That's why, like, losing my mom was the biggest fear of my life since I was a kid. She was the closest person I've ever had. It was my excuse. That was going to be my excuse to just say fuck it and do whatever, like, I wanted, whether it was get high, whether it was have a shootout with the police, whether it was go rob 10 banks, that was going to be my excuse. I didn't care anymore. Thankfully, like, I was able, like you said, I was able to come home and learn how to be a man a little bit before she got sick. I was going for 12 years. She was there with me. So that didn't happen while I was gone. Even my brother, he was gone for a little bit while I was here. I knew she was waiting for him to come back. As soon as he came back, we was both here to take care of her. Even my fiance, like, we used to take shifts, when it got bad. But we was all here for her. So as a man, like, I could at least stand on that and be proud. So for me, that's, like, the biggest part. And I use that, like, she's smiling. I didn't go use it as an excuse to use. I didn't use it as an excuse to go do anything. I'm still working overtime. I'm taking this as an opportunity to be able to get a home that has a good basement, so a finished basement for my brother, a place for my, you know what I mean? Like, I'm in grasp of being able to make all this happen, and I'm like thankful and grateful and humble to be able to do it. Because, like, I didn't know what it was to be a man. Like, I didn't know what it was to pay a fucking bill. I didn't know what it was to file taxes. I didn't know what it was to a credit check. Like, I came home, I got a secure credit card. I did that for the first year. You know what I mean? So I built my credit up through that. I got a good credit score. I just got a pre-approval. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm looking for a house. I'll be able to sell this and have it down. Like, things are good today, man. Like, they're not great. Don't get me wrong. Working 60 hours a week just so I could make everything happen. But, like, for me, it's just, I'm blessed. And I just want to say, like, how important it is to get to, like, so I was exposed to things at a young age. But, like, it's all about how you bring up, I don't have any kids, but I feel like it's so important on how you raise the kids and get to them and the message you tell them at a young age to avoid this. Like, they could learn through our shit. They don't got to go through it. But I also, like, as a kid, so I was exposed to stuff, but I also, like, through my brother or my mom or my dad or my stepsister, like, I don't blame them either, because you don't know what they was exposed to. How was they brought up? So I feel like it's just a collective whole that everybody has to do better, you know? So, like.
Well, so I mean, that's your goal, is to get a house and keep keep doing the right thing.
I'm at right now. So, like, I'm not big on social media or anything. I have social media. Like, I was recently on Ian Bick's podcast. It hasn't aired yet, but I just want to spread the message, man, of how important it is to not waste our lives over a substance or some, like, there's so much more to life out there. So my thing is, right now, once I get the house and find out where I want to be, I'd like to get into something like as a big brother to work with kids, because I feel like it's important where they, like, don't get me wrong, my father was there and he told me what was right from wrong, what I should do, that it's important to get an education and you're going to need a job that pays well. So I heard all that when I was a child. You know what I mean? That was there. But I feel like if I had a positive role model that I could relate to, that you know, not that I didn't look up to my father. He's a great man. You know what I mean? But just, you know, someone that you could find more relatable. I've looked at my dad as, like, disciplined, strict. So I feel like if you have that positive role model at a young age that could teach you the right thing, like, there's this thing on TikTok or social media, something where the guy has, like, all the kids from the neighborhood and he teaches them how to change a tire. He teaches them how to do an oil change. He teaches them how to change a light socket. He teaches them how to do all these different things that are so important as a kid to learn.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and I feel like that's important. The trades are always going to be there, whether it's plumbing, welding, different things. And I feel like kids should learn that as a young age, man. Everybody's going with tech stuff, and that's cool too. But, you know, some people growing up who don't have those same opportunities or whatever to, you know.
And there's electricians that are making the same money doctors and lawyers are making right now, because nobody's going into those trades.
That's what I went to Votech for, was electrical. That's what I started doing college classes for, was electrical. That's what I'd like to get into. That's, you know, me right now, I'm working on a lumber yard. I've been there 2.5 years. For me, it's been convenient. This is what so when I told you I came to PA at my mom's house, for me, that's what I needed to get away from everything else. I didn't want to be back in Jersey around people, places, and things. Right. I needed to be, you know, a little distance. And for me, it was good. I was able to work, come home. The only person I really chill with is my girl. You know what I mean? That's it.
I appreciate you guys watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos just like this. Also, please leave a comment and share the video. That really does help. Please consider joining my Patreon. It's $10 a month, and Colby and I put exclusive Patreon content on Patreon. So there's stuff that happens when people come to the studio where we'll be talking for 20 or 30 minutes about things, or some stuff gets cut from the videos and we put that together. And sometimes sometimes guys end up telling a story that we just can't possibly put on YouTube because it'll get us flagged or get the video taken down or whatever. Once again, I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. See ya.